Does going to the ohel contradict believing that the Rebbe is physically alive?
Firstly, let's start by explaining what it means when we say the Rebbe is physically alive today. Something which is not now, and that's not the question, so I won't go into it at length, but just the concept and the idea of it. The general concept that a tzaddik is alive is something that we find in the Gemara, we find it in the Medrash, we find it all over Torah, even to halacha bepoil, practical halacha. The concept of death is something that had to do with Adam Arishan once he did the sin of Eitz Hadas. When the Jewish people received the Torah, they lost the zuama, the tumah that came from Eitz Hadas, left them. When they did the Chet HaEgel, it came back. But someone who's completely connected and his whole essence is Torah, just like Torah is eternal, and not just eternal in the spiritual sense, but eternal in the physical sense, so also a tzaddik is eternal in the physical sense in this physical world. In addition to that, we have the tzaddik, which is the leader of the generation, who is just like Yaakov Avinu and Moshe Rabbeinu of his generation, that regarding them we say that they're not only eternal in the physical world, but perhaps in a spiritual manner, but they're eternal in the physical world physically as well. And that's something which is found not as a new thing, not only as something that's amongst Chassidim, it's something which is all over the place. When a person goes to an ohel of a tzaddik, the ohel of the tzaddik is the place where we say since his physical existence is there, so therefore his spirit is there as well, as neshama resides there as well. For this reason, there will be people who will rather connect to the Rebbe in 770, and the reason is a simple and an obvious reason. Being that we believe that the tzaddik is alive also physically, in the physical world, in the physical existence, and therefore his place in the physical existence is not in a temporary dwelling place, an ohel, but rather in a bayis, a home which is called Beis Mashiach, the place where the Rebbe says that that's where he will be and reside, and that's where Mashiach will be revealed. And therefore, since we believe the physical existence is in the physical world, that a person will want to connect to the Rebbe specifically in 770. Nevertheless, the idea of a person going to the ohel is not a contradiction on any levels. First of all, there's definitely the concept that the ohel is the place of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and a place where the Rebbe asked and requested and pushed many times that Chassidim should go there and should daven there. And more than that, it's a place where the Rebbe himself davened so many hours and brought all the panim and all the tefillos of Klal Yisrael. So it's certainly a holy place and a place to daven, and not only a place to come to visit the Frierdiker Rebbe, but even a place to connect to the Rebbe, because the Rebbe pushed to go there, and the Rebbe himself spent hours upon hours there davening and bringing all of the requests of everyone. But in addition to that, and it's something which is important, that regardless of how a person feels, and his feeling should be together with the acceptance and with the agreement of his mashpia, because a person shouldn't do things and hergeshim and feelings on his own. But regardless if a person feels, which is a legitimate feeling, that he wants to connect to the Rebbe, being that he believes the Rebbe is alive fully in this world, in the complete manner, therefore he wants to connect to the Rebbe in 770, that doesn't contradict the fact that some people can feel, and that there's no contradiction to them feeling that they can go to the ohel, a place where certainly is a holy place, and they feel that the Rebbe is in the ohel. Being that a Rebbe is not limited, and the whole point of it is that a Rebbe is not limited to the physical limitations. So although we believe that the Rebbe is here physically, one who feels that this is where he can connect in the ohel may have that and can accept that and can have that, and doesn't have to contradict to the feeling and the realization that the Rebbe is alive. But the main point is that each person has his direction and his path based on his mashpia, and he has to believe in his path fully and completely. But yet, for a person to come and say that the Rebbe is not somewhere is limiting the Rebbe, because a Rebbe is not limited to not be somewhere, and especially such a holy place. We know that the Rebbe can answer people anywhere in the world, and a person can connect to the Rebbe anywhere in the world, and certainly in such a holy place like that. And it's certainly not something for anyone to go against someone who does it, if that's their feeling, that that's how they want to connect to the Rebbe, and they still believe that the Rebbe is alive. Then everyone can have their feeling based on the way they go with their mashpia and chassidus. So there's definitely a reason that someone should want to connect to the Rebbe specifically in 770, but it's also a reason and an understanding why someone wants to connect in the ohel, and therefore each person, the way he does it, and the way, as long as it brings him to the action and to the right action, and specifically the belief, which that's something which the Rebbe pushes and which the Torah says, that the Rebbe, being the leader of the final generation and the one who's going to take us out of Galus, didn't leave us and is with us and is here physically in this physical world, and that we believe and we await any moment that the Rebbe should actually take us out of Galus.